So, moving on. The next thing we're going to talk about is movies. So, we're going to watch a few trailers, and we're going to talk about some of them. Some of these you probably haven't even seen, so I'll put these two. But the first one we're going to talk about, and we're going to get into the review of The Joker.
Yay!
Everyone's seen it, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
And let me add this in before we
All
jump
right.
to it, was that when Jennifer watched our last show, there was a technical difficulty problem, and they didn't have the picture of the trailer. All it was on was us and our reaction, and she thoroughly enjoyed that. she said just watching your guys' faces react to different parts was way entertaining for
Interesting.
her.
So
Yeah,
the-
I think I
the
cut
link-
that out when I clipped the episodes into little pieces.
So I'm not sure, Travis, what this link was to. I can't recall, but I'll put it in there because you.
Yeah,
gave it
so
to me.
I'll tell you, and we don't have to watch it if y'all don't want to. One of the things I remember Todd Phillips saying about this movie is that a huge influence on this movie was The Laughing Joke by Alan Moore. And so there was a clip.
Killing Joke.
Sorry, The Killing Joke. That's what I meant. There was a clip that I got someone sent to me, and it's like a 2.5 minute clip from the cartoon version of The Killing Joke. And if you really pay attention to it and what the Joker is saying, you start to see the movie, I think, in a little bit different light. And we could talk about it more afterwards if y'all want to watch it real fast.
Cool.
Is 2 minutes too much? Let's run it and see.
You got the volume down.
What does it matter if you send me back to the asylum if it doesn't matter to me? I've proven my point. Gordon's been driven mad. I've demonstrated there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day. You had a bad day once, am I right? I know I am. I can tell. You had a bad day. Everything changed.
I like you did. Yeah.
Fire rat doesn't hide it, it screams it. You had a bad day, and you was crazy as everybody else, only you won't admit it. You have to keep pretending that it makes sense that there's some point to all this struggling. You make me want to puke. I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe? Brother carved up by some mother? Something like that, I know. Because something like that happened to me. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. My point is, I went crazy. And I'm smart enough to admit it. Why can't you? By clinging to reality, you're denying the reality of the situation. I mean, do you ever think about how many times we've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? Silly goose, it's all a joke. Everything anybody ever found was a before. It's monstrous. Why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you
Because I've heard it before. And it wasn't funny the first time.
Wow. That is exactly.
It's basically a recap of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thesis right there.
Yeah. I hadn't seen this this animated flick yet.
I haven't either.
Oh, I saw it when it came out in theaters. It's good.
Did the Batgirl stuff bother you?
Kinda. I mean, it covers it, like you know what's going on, like you understand what's happening, but it's not like it's not graphic, you know. So yeah, but you definitely
People just lost their shit over it.
you kind of know
They're like, "Why
you
is
know
that-"
what's going on.
Yeah.
like you get the gist of everything. It's like, oh yeah, that is what happens.
So I think everyone here loved the Joker. So anyone want to
So
kick
before
off
we
the
go,
conversation there?
are we going spoiler free? Can we? I mean, are we allowed to go talk
Oh, yeah,
about everything?
absolutely.
I think
Okay.
It's been 2
Okay,
weeks,
good.
So yeah.
yeah.
So spoilers.
Spoiler
if you
ban
have
You're
not
lifted.
seen
watching and you
the
haven't
movie,
seen
you
it.
know.
Let her rip.
So who wants to start?
So since I put up the clip, I'll talk a little bit about it. So I really enjoyed this movie, and I remember at one point I had made a comment of I didn't like one part at the end where they kill the Wayne parents, and I've gotten past it. I think part of it was just the way it was done, the fact that it was done that way, that it's been done in every movie, that kind of got to me. But thinking about it and thinking of it in context of this clip, I get it now why they did it, because they're tying those two, I guess, bad days together. I do have a theory that I've been thinking about, and it's actually something that I read. I didn't come up with it, but I've thought about it more, and the more I think about it, the more I think of something like this clip. It makes me think that there might be something to it. So we see throughout the entire movie this idea of what's real and what's not real. We see several times that it contradicts itself, and you're meant to kind of get that feeling of I'm not quite sure what's going on or what's real and what's not. And the theory that I saw or read about was that everything up until the very end of the movie is all happening in Arthur's head, Arthur Fleck. That it's actually not him throughout the movie that stuff's happening to. It's him trying to concoct this story to make it sound like his origin story, but it's really not. And a lot of the evidence points at stuff like at the very end when you see him with a therapist and you see him laughing. That's the only time in the movie that he's genuinely laughing. Everywhere else in the movie, it's either a laughing because he's got that condition, or it's a fake laugh because he's trying to fit in with, like at the comedy scene, he's trying to fit in and laugh. And so that's the real Arthur Fleck at the end laughing. That's the only time he does it. We also talked about throughout the movie, there's a lot of times he kills people, and we said, well, a lot of those people deserved it. And we could go back and forth on who didn't and who didn't. At the very end, he kills the therapist, right? That's the only person, again, we don't know anything about, and we don't know if she deserved it. And so there's a lot of evidence that points to it. I'm not saying it's absolutely what they wanted it to be, but the more I think of it in that context, I feel a little bit more like this is the same Joker that could be the Joker in the other movies. Because everything that happens in the movie, all the stuff of him creating the Joker, to me, I was like, that can't be the same guy that turns into Heath Ledger's Joker. They're just two different people.
But
Well,
see,
they're
I'm
not
okay with that. I don't need him to fit into some sort of.
Yeah, it's a different continuity. They're not supposed to be the same. They're both the Joker, but those movies don't tie together.
No. I'm not saying they tie together. What I'm saying is the person that inevitably becomes the nemesis to Batman is not the Joker that we see in this movie.
Well,
So you're saying
I
that
think he is.
you're saying
He's
that
just not there yet.
you're saying that person doesn't become the mastermind. That
No.
I think he does.
I don't think it does unless you believe this theory that all of that was made up.
No, to me, it's like an Elseworlds, which essentially to me all the movies and all the TV shows are Elseworlds, which is alternate versions of, alternate reality of. So the Batman that he creates will also fit in that world, and it won't be like the Batman that we know from all the other worlds. So then they do become equal arch enemies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I agree with that because I hear what you're saying, but in my mind, and I've only seen it the once. I need to go back and see it again, although it was very emotional and hard to watch. So I don't know when that will be. But to me, like in the very beginning, he's very childlike and very almost kind of maybe pure is not the right word, but not the Joker, right? He's taking care of his mom,
he's a good person.
He's a good person, and then throughout the movie, he has just a horrible. What is the movie? The horrible, shitty. What is that movie? I can't remember.
No Good Day or something.
The
like
no
that.
good,
Yeah.
horrible, shitty day. His whole life has been that way, and when he starts going off of his meds because he can't get them, then his personality starts to change, and he starts to become this other person. And it's like at the very end, from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, there's a huge change because he goes from this nice, pure kind of character. At the very end, even his demeanor changes. You know, the way he stands, everything he does is different, including his personality. He actually carries on conversations.
He becomes
that
himself.
That he didn't have before. Before it was hard for him to even have a conversation. He just, he kind of shied away from everything and
aside from comic book
laughed
stuff,
at weird places.
my other favorite entertainment thing is crime things. So like SVU and Criminal Minds and that type of stuff. And in Criminal Minds and those type of shows, they always talk about with serial killers that trigger, that one thing that makes it's like the last straw, and that's what happened to him. He got to his last straw, and what it's saying is in this horrible, horrible world, so many people are on the brink, and you're just one bad day from going slap crazy, and that's what I liked about it. That was really cool.
Yeah, I really loved it. And I know you did too, but
Yeah.
anybody else?
Someone else, part of what you were saying, I've had someone else say they thought that a lot of what happened wasn't real, that it was,
that could be.
which would be a cool story as well.
Yeah, that could be.
So part of what I was trying to get at is if Joker was in the asylum the whole time and he was making up this story, this could be his version of events to try to rationalize why he went and killed people. And the whole part of him laughing at the end is him thinking, this is so stupid, even I don't believe this. Like, no one's going to believe me, kind of thing.
Right.
And I mean, there's little things, there's other little hints that they've dropped about this theory. Like, there's a point early when he's talking to his therapist and she makes a comment of, do you know why you're here? Or she asks him why he's here. And it goes to a clip of him in what looks like Arkham Asylum banging his head against a door. That's the only time that you see him in a mental institution. They never make reference of him ever being institutionalized or any of this stuff. We can kind of assume that he might have because he's got medication, obviously.
But she mentions about why he was there.
She talks about it.
I think he had been institutionalized before.
And that's how he got to her. And I think the other thing, too, because I was talking to someone else about it, and I think the way this is directed, it's meant for us to fill in the gaps and it not be a completely linear story. And I like that.
Yeah.
This other person was talking about, how do you go from the riot to the asylum? And I was like, well, he got arrested. And he said, well, they didn't show that. I'm thinking, you don't have to show everything in every movie. That's lazy storytelling. Let the audience connect the dots.
But interestingly enough, your thoughts about that, I think the story works either way. Like, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, would that ruin the movie for me if I found out that it was all in his head? Not at all.
No.
Ruin it for me at all.
And I don't think it should. I think it can work either.
I think it's great either way.
And Todd Phillips has come out and talked about this movie and said, I'm not going to tell everybody what's actually real and what's not.
Right.
Because you don't, in his mind, I think it's very much you don't need me to explain to you what you just saw.
Right. And that's what makes good movies great. Right?
Absolutely.
That you can sit and kind of speculate.
And again, it speaks to the thing I've often said about DC movies versus Marvel movies. When DC does them well, they're films.
Correct.
And this,
wait, what'd you say?
When DC does movies well, they're films.
Not just movies.
Not just
movies.
Okay. Not just blockbusters. They're more thinking. They're more grounded. So kind of like the Nolan Batman trilogy. It was just more
gritty, real,
cinematic.
Yeah, agreed.
So there is one other theory I heard. Did you want to say something before I go?
Oh, no.
Go ahead, man.
I am waiting.
Okay. There was one other theory I heard, which I hope isn't true because I don't think I would like this one as much. That talks about, and I haven't seen it a second time, so I haven't really verified this. But they were making a comment of the guy that's driving the ambulance that runs into the police car looks very much like the same guy that kills the Wayne parents. and their theory was that that is actually the guy that's going to become the true Joker in like a future DC movie, and they're going to try and tie it back to this as this Joker we just knew about in this movie is going to influence who the real Joker is going to become, which I really don't want to be true because I don't want this to become like tied to the next Robert Pattinson Batman movie.
Some
But-
people got too much time on their hands.
I mean, that's what happens. People
Well,
start
I mean,
overthinking this
No,
stuff.
well, honestly, no. I didn't think that the ambulance driver was the same guy that killed Wayne. You know,
I didn't think so either.
Bruce Wayne's parents.
Yeah, I'm not sure
But-
where
so-
they got that.
But that was interesting to me. So you talk about the whole thing about, was it all in his head? You know, and so, it kind of like I was trying to figure it out because early on when he goes and he like bangs on the door and he like starts kissing, his neighbor or whatever. You know,
Yeah,
and then
that
all of a
did
sudden
seem-
they start dating. It just felt so off, and I'm like,
Well-
how, like, it was almost because it was like, how did that?
How did he get so confident?
How did he get confident? How did she become interested in him? Like, what,
I think I said
all
that.
of
I
this
said,
was just,
I was like, they're not in the same
yeah, it
range.
just doesn't make sense. And then, when he shows up in her apartment and she's like, "You're in the wrong apartment," and then she realizes who she is, and it's like, oh, it was all in her head. And then
Yeah.
like later
Yeah.
on, it was they like show,
Then
or
it
all
goes
in
back and corrects the
all
story
in his
for you.
head. Yeah, but that's the thing about. I don't think that the riot at the end was in his head because he gets knocked out. And
Right.
whenever we see him and we see the things that are in his head, it's almost like we're there with him.
Right.
Like in the hospital, we see her, and so there that seems kind of established. But it was interesting talking about the other guy that shot Wayne's parents becoming the Joker, because I was wondering if they were trying to allude to at that point that he had transcended being a person and had become an idea.
I thought about that as
The-
well.
had become
I do
the,
think that was part
the
of that.
idea. So then the guy that did shoot Wayne's parents could have become the Joker that we know,
A Joker.
later on, but we see this Joker now.
Right.
Yeah.
That almost puts the Joker idea in tune with Nolan's idea for Batman.
Right.
Right.
Because like anybody can be Batman, and all
Right.
that's
Right.
so like flowery and happy and all that. Well,
Yeah.
well, the name of the movie
equal
is
could be,
Joker, not the Joker, too. That's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly.
So,
But I mean, I kind of feel like, okay, so the one thing there's two things about this movie. I've seen it twice. The second time I watched it, like as a crime movie, I tried to keep the superhero shit off to the side. Okay, I have this problem with superhero movies where when I watch it the first time, it's like I'm not actually watching it. I'm just looking for all the shit that they got wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like I hate that fan, I hate that myself, but it's what I do, and I'm doing the thing, and I'm watching this thing about about the villain. I want to get to what you talked about as far as like the idea of him having a bad day in terms of the idea of it not being in his head here in a second.
Yeah.
But like this movie for me, when I watched it the second time around, watching it as a crime story, I spotted all the serial killer shit, like all of that,
Yeah.
because he actually classifies as a disorganized killer,
Yeah.
according to like the rules that the dude from Mindhunter and all that, right? So like he's like a disorganized killer, and to kind of prove that point, I liked how you brought up the thing about the banging his head in the mental institution, and about how like that happens towards the beginning of the movie, and he's asked, and you know what that was, or you know what you were there for, and all that. And he said I really liked it being there. There's a point where he's trying to get his file, and it's almost like he's at home, and then of course at the end the hallways are completely different. They're completely white and this, that, and the other. So it's like he has like gone on to like where he wants to be. So the thing about crazy is that people don't know they're crazy when they're crazy.
Right.
Okay, that's the number
Right.
one problem I have with Joker stories in general. That's the only thing that took me out with Killing Joke, is the second Joker says you should be crazy like me. Crazy don't know they're crazy.
Right.
It's like that just takes me out.
They think they're getting more sane.
Yeah, yeah. They think they're in on the trick, right? And they need to tell their tricks to everybody so that they can also be regular and scene, just making, just spreading their crazy. Okay, the reason that the best movie to ever illustrate crazy is Beautiful Mind. Okay, because even I got wrapped up in the whole like, no, that guy really has a thing in his arm. He's like really fine. He's totally cool. And then I'm like, oh my god, I need electroshock therapy too.
Yeah.
And so
that
we're
movie's
like,
the
we're all
best.
going sane with that character, right? Well, in this movie, we're watching a movie where the guy doesn't give a shit. The crazy is a relaxing thing, and that is messed up. And I feel like because of the superhero angle, the very mythic angle, along with the serial killer, like down to earth aspect we were talking about earlier about outer darkness, where it's like, you have the high, you have the low, those are your boundaries. This movie does that, right? And so, like, Todd Phillips and Joaquin's performance really like went high and it went low, and like when you felt sad for Arthur, even though he was a mass murderer and killing everybody in sight, I really do believe though that he was put in that institution originally because he did do something like that. He didn't just carve up a couple of cats and dogs somewhere, and mom found him. It wasn't like that. He carved up some people. Okay. So, I really think that that's what he was in there for. And because if you're watching him during the part where he's talking to his boss and you see how mad he is in his eyes. So Joaquin can do this thing where from here up, he's 1000% nuts. And then from here down, he's completely like, sane, black tie wearing, person. And it's just sublime watching him like not go off on his boss. I just thought that was like brilliant. And then he goes, and then you see him, beating up a dumpster. The healthy thing to do, right? The Mr. Rogers thing to do. And then like I love how the idea that he probably is crazy and that he heard those guys singing that Sinatra song. Okay. And between the Sinatra song and where the music pops up, and this I spotted this the second time around, Todd Phillips made all the quirks for like however long Joker has been a thing, since what, the 1940s, 1940 whatever. He went back and took all these quirks and just made them ticks for a serial killer, right? The dancing, that's a part of the ritual for being a serial killer. The music, being a fan of music. All of his song choices. I mean, dude is like, he's ritualized everything in his head, even down to the fact that he's attracted to, African American women. Okay, the ones that he can't have. I really do believe, I personally believe that seeing a dead Sophie in that movie would have been too much for the audience. That would have put everybody over the top. Like, the ability to sympathize with Arthur would have gone right out the window.
Right.
Okay? So...
Yeah, and they leave that open of what he actually does there.
And that's actually what I wanted to bring up, because that kind of goes back into what you were saying. Like, he's going to tell the version of the story that to this lady, this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I mean, I personally believe that. I think there's actually more bodies in that movie that may actually be alive. Now, I think the one person that got out scot-free, because this is just crazy, is the midget.
Yes! I love that part.
That part.
Because the midget was nice to him.
Exactly.
And even in Crazy, he recognizes,
Crazy has more rules they follow, man. They
Yes.
follow more rules
See,
in reality.
And that's the thing. I don't think he did anything to Sophie, because...
So you think he didn't?
She was nice to him on the elevator. And she was probably
or
nice.
did he imagine she was nice to him?
No, I think she was nice to him.
I think the elevator ride was real. I think that anything from him kissing her forward, I think, was in his head. But I think the elevator ride was real, and she was nice to him. So I think because of that, I don't think that he did anything to Sophie. But that's just my personal opinion.
So what do you make of the whole?
I think.
I mean,
I think when he did that, I think that's when it became in his head.
Yeah. Well,
it's
possibly,
kind of like.
I mean, that was
the second time, not the first time.
That was like him trying to connect. Because I mean, that was what she did. She was like,
I think she did it for real.
She was doing it very, nonchalant, like, oh my God, this day, and he was like, yeah, and it was a little bit trying to be accepted,
Right.
Not understanding some social cues there,
Right.
And he was like, "Oh yeah, haha," But then later on, when
Went
he was
too
in
far
her
with it.
apartment,
Yep.
then when he's in her apartment, I think at that point he's like, "I think I'm gonna kill myself." Now whether she really understands what he means at that point, I don't, but yeah, it's interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't want to like
No, keep
derail.
going, keep going.
So, but no, you were talking about watching it as a superhero movie or whatever. It took me until about 2/3 of the way through the movie to remember that that we were leading up to the Joker.
Right.
Well,
Like
agreed.
until then, it was just a serial killer who happened to use a clown persona.
Yes.
And a guy that was having a bad day and all of
Yeah.
this. I mean, it could have been like they could have never mentioned the Joker or Bruce Wayne or if we
They
didn't
left all of that out.
Yeah, if you took this to someone who had never heard of the Joker or Bruce Wayne or Batman or anything like that, I think it would totally it wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Like the entire movie would make sense, but it would be about a guy who had a bad day, who snapped and went crazy and all
And
that.
then we'd be talking
And
about how it
so-
should have been a Batman movie, how it should have been a Joker movie.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
No, I thought
So,
it was
yeah.
perfect. I thought the tone was great. One thing that when you talked about him going to try to get the records at the asylum, it kicked off something I remembered. This movie could not have happened any other time period. Because
No one would have gone and gotten those records.
Exactly. There would have been so many plot holes, like him smothering his mother. Like the nurses would have been in there because the nurses station would have been, going crazy.
Exactly.
But I mean, we're back then. There weren't all those things.
I thought the
him
exact same
going
thing.
and talking to the dude, and he's like, "Yeah, I just want these records," and like, dude just brings up a box. He's like, "Sorry, I had to like go all the way to the basement and search because these are 30 years old." Katunk. Oh, yeah, she was institutionalized for blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. I was like, HIPAA.
Yes, I was doing the whole thing. I was sitting there going, well,
So
that wouldn't happen.
There's so many things that that if this was in a modern time and space, it would have just gone right out the window. But because of when it was set, it worked perfectly. And I loved how they set that from the outset.
Yes,
They used
from the first logo.
The classic Warner Brothers logo comes up, and it's like, oh, that the little details.
Great
on it
period
was
piece.
just awesome.
The other thing,
But, so anyway, that was just a couple of things I was thinking.
you mentioned Joaquin's performance, and the other thing that was so amazing about it was his physicality.
Losing all that weight, like
Losing
that
the weight.
that was real, right?
How
That was
awkward-
not,
That was
How he
It's
it's not
contorted
like they're
his body.
CGI,
Right, how
anything.
awkward he was with his body when he danced, all of that,
It was
and
almost
then
deformed, like
That was
the way
totally-
it
Yeah,
was in the
when
movie.
he was
Yeah.
stretching. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were
and
talking
when-
about ritual. That whole ritual with him, like making these poses,
Yes.
and all of that. It was
You can hear him
so.
saying it puts the lotion on his.
Yeah, it was. But it was like it was fascinating and creepy at the same time.
Right.
Yeah,
You
That
know?
was the one
mesmerizing.
It was
cringeworthy.
him,
That was cringeworthy.
now take
yeah.
this. Imagine if you had had that skill of a director and that skill of because part of that is the actor, but also part of it is the director to set that scene to allow the actor to flourish. Imagine if you'd had that great of direction for Suicide Squad.
No, we're not talking about that movie.
Because-
let's not even go there. 'Cause, yeah.
I'm just
They
saying.
got round 2
Man.
coming.
You got
No.
you got option for someone to dance crazy in a movie. One could not.
Well, so I will just one thing. So my
We could
big
do that one thing.
I
all
know,
night long.
I know.
Yeah.
The only reason when I was watching the movie that I was not a fan of that last scene with the Wayne parents being killed is because my original thought when I saw that is, son of a bitch, they're gonna try to tie this into Robert Pattinson's Batman movie.
No.
And that was
Yeah.
gonna be the origin story for
See,
him.
No.
okay, so just
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
thing.
I know,
Let's wrap up,
yeah.
like
wrap
the
up our thoughts and get on.
I like the whole idea that this movie was essay on evil. Okay, I really needed that to be like the whole point of this movie. It stands by itself. It's about evil. It's where evil comes from. A lot of people, I mean, there's this old like mystic idea that evil starts in the home. That's exactly what this movie was. It started in the home, and the whole idea of quote unquote having a bad day, which is something that really kind of sort of bothered me from Dark Knight, was that Heath Ledger's Joker, or should I say Christopher Nolan's Joker, really wanted to make sure that everyone had a bad day so they could be just as crazy as his. I'm sorry, just as crazy as he is. Remember what I was talking about earlier about how crazy people want other people to be crazy, okay? Because they think they got the inside scoop on sanity, on reality. The thing is when you do that, and the crazy person thinks that they're in control of those other people, okay? They think they're in control of their environment that way, okay? So in this movie, in Joker, we have Bruce Wayne being created pretty much as Batman in this movie, okay? We have Bruce Wayne having a bad day, okay? Everybody knows in this room that Bruce Wayne grows up to be Batman, okay? So the idea is that Joker couldn't spread his insanity. He just couldn't. I mean, there was other people that identified with it, but it was just really interesting to see that even in the end, this Joker actually didn't care about spreading his insanity. That wasn't the point for him. I've never really seen that anywhere else. And so I think that the idea of having a bad day and seeing Bruce Wayne like that, it really just made me think that that was the silver lining. It was like evil actually has a purpose, you know, to kind of like give people this opportunity to rise above something. Okay, so that was like the number one thing I thought this movie should communicate is that you can live through anything. It's gonna suck.
Yeah,
you can live through anything.
Well, I think just to recap, I think we could talk about the Joker really the whole show.
Yeah,
We still got like another hour of this.
It has that many layers. It was extremely good. So I think for everyone here, I'm just going to say, if you haven't seen it, don't listen to all the negativity. It was an incredible movie.
And
You
we
should
just
give it a
ruined it
whirl.
for you.
And I think a few weeks back when we did the review of this, before it even came out, and we were watching the trailer, we were like, oh my God, if it's as good as it looks, then it's going to be great. Well, it was great. So check it out.